The rusty padlock hung limp, a jagged tear revealing what lurked inside. Beneath it, smeared accusingly across the warped wooden floorboards, was a single, crimson footprint. My stomach lurched, a cold fist twisting in my gut. This wasn't part of the recapture our youth plan. We, the remnants of our once inseparable college crew, Liam, the brooding artist, Sarah, the perpetually chipper optimist, Michael, the sardonic joker, and me, Maya, the ever-responsible one, had descended on Camp Crystal Lake for a nostalgic weekend getaway. 15 years had passed, carving canyons between us, yet there we were, drawn back by a shared memory and a cheap rental agreement. Liam, the first to notice the footprint, knelt, his dark eyes widening. "Holy," he mumbled, voice trailing off. A shiver prickled my skin. Liam wasn't easily spooked. "Probably a raccoon," Michael piped up, his usual flippancy tinged with something more. Michael had always harbored a grudge against this place. Rumor had it a prank gone wrong here years ago had gotten him expelled. Could this be payback? "Raccoons don't wear boots, Mike," Sarah chimed in, her voice tight. Sarah and Michael had a contentious history, their rivalry simmering just beneath the surface. Could a weekend away have reignited old flames, of a murderous kind? Panic bubbled up, threatening to burst. "We should get out of here," I blurted. But curiosity, always my Achilles heel, held me rooted. We decided to investigate, hearts hammering a frantic rhythm against our ribs. The cabin was a mausoleum of forgotten summers. Dust motes danced in the fractured sunlight filtering through broken windows. An overturned bunk bed creaked ominously, and a tattered camp banner mocked us with the slogan, "Where memories are made." No body. Just a chilling silence, punctuated by the rhythmic gurgle of the nearby lake. Relief flooded me, only to be replaced with a fresh wave of unease when Sarah spotted a single, familiar earring on the dusty floor, a silver feather, worn only by me, Maya. Michael's voice was a low growl. My blood ran cold. Was this some elaborate setup? Michael knew the camp well, knew its layout perfectly for a twisted revenge scheme. Suddenly, a sickening crack echoed through the cabin. Liam, who had strayed further in, stumbled back, clutching his arm, a thin, cruel smile playing on his lips. A rusty axe lay discarded on the floor. "Accident," he breathed, eyes glinting with an unsettling coldness. Was Liam, ever the brooding artist, finally seeking a more literal outlet for his darkness? Panic turned to a desperate scramble for the exit. We shoved against the warped door, Liam lagging behind. With a sickening thud, the door slammed shut, the padlock snapping firmly back into place. We were trapped. Accusations flew, paranoia festering. But just as the tension threatened to explode, the true horror unfolded. A figure, shrouded in shadow, emerged from a hidden crawlspace behind a collapsed wardrobe. It wasn't any of us. A weathered face twisted into a grotesque parody of a smile revealed an unsettling familiarity. It was Old Man Jenkins, the camp caretaker, rumored to have always been a bit off. He clutched the bloody axe, his milky eyes gleaming with a psychotic glint. Years of pent-up resentment at a world that had forgotten him, fueled by the echoes of forgotten summers, had finally snapped. This wasn't a weekend getaway. It was a death trap. We weren't reliving memories, we were becoming them. And the screams that echoed through Camp Crystal Lake that night were more than just echoes of the past. They were a chilling promise of the bloody future. The air grew thick with a metallic tang as Jenkins raised the axe, a rusty halo above his head. Sarah shrieked, her voice a high-pitched whine that curdled the already heavy air. Michael, surprisingly, was the first to react. With a feral snarl, he lunged, a forgotten metal camp chair clutched in his hand like a shield. The clang of metal echoed as the chair met the axe head, sparking a shower of crimson, but Jenkins was stronger. He shoved Michael back with a sickening crunch, the chair clattering to the floor in a mangled heap. Sarah, ever the optimist, saw an opening. She lunged for the crawlspace Liam had been blocking, shoving him aside with perhaps a little too much force. Liam stumbled, a flicker of something dark crossing his face before it was hidden by shadow. The air grew thick with a metallic tang as Jenkins raised the axe, a rusty halo above his head. Sarah shrieked, her voice a high-pitched whine that curdled the already heavy air. Michael, surprisingly, was the first to react. With a feral snarl, he lunged, a forgotten metal camp chair clutched in his hand like a shield. The clang of metal echoed as the chair met the axe head, sparking a shower of crimson. Sarah disappeared through the hole just as Jenkins brought the axe down with a sickening thud. Michael wasn't so lucky. He let out a choked scream as the axe split his skull open, a grotesque fountain of blood erupting from the wound. His body crumpled to the floor, eyes wide and unseeing. Liam scrambled to his feet, a primal fear battling with something else in his eyes. He lunged for the fallen chair, but I got there first. With a strength born of desperation, I swung the chair, catching Jenkins on the shoulder. The old man roared in pain, momentarily stunned. I didn't waste the opening. I scrambled for the broken window, shards of glass glinting like malevolent teeth. Ignoring the sting of cuts on my arms, I propelled myself through the gap, landing hard on the uneven ground outside. Adrenaline pounded through my veins. I scrambled to my feet, the taste of metallic fear thick in my mouth. Glancing back, I saw Liam emerge from the cabin, face contorted in a mask of pure rage. He wasn't running after me, he was charging towards the crawlspace. A horrifying realization dawned. Maybe Michael wasn't the target. Maybe the revenge wasn't for a prank gone wrong, but something far deeper, far more personal. Ignoring the searing pain in my ankle, I sprinted towards the crawlspace entrance. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the stench of damp earth. Sarah's panicked gasps echoed in the cramped space. I shoved myself forward, heart hammering against my ribs. The tunnel opened into a small cavern. In the flickering light of my phone, I saw Liam looming over Sarah, the axe dripping a slow, crimson rain. Sarah, cornered like a frightened animal, whimpered, "Liam," I screamed, my voice hoarse. He turned, a chilling smile playing on his lips. The playful Liam I knew was gone, replaced by a stranger with eyes like burning embers. "This was always meant for her," he rasped, the words laced with a cold satisfaction. The prank, the expulsion, it was all an act. Before I could react, Liam raised the axe. Time slowed down. I saw the glint of metal, Sarah's wide eyes, the inevitable arc of the weapon. But then, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the air. It wasn't Sarah. It was Liam. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the impact. It never came. When I opened them, I saw a sight that would forever scar my memory. Old man Jenkins, his face a mask of fury, had emerged from behind Liam. The axe was buried deep in Liam's back, crimson blooming like a grotesque flower on his white shirt. Liam crumpled forward, a strangled cry escaping his lips. "No more." Jenkins bellowed, his voice ragged with years of repressed rage. He ripped the axe free, the metallic shriek echoing in the cavern. Sarah, mercifully unconscious, lay huddled in a corner. My own body ached, but a cold, primal instinct took over. I grabbed a large rock, the only weapon within reach. Jenkins turned towards me, a manic grin plastered on his face. We were the last ones standing. In the dim light of the cavern, a deadly dance macabre unfolded. The rock felt slick with damp earth in my hand, a poor excuse for a weapon against the blood-hungry fury of old man Jenkins. But it was all I had. Jenkins lunged, his labored breaths rasping in the confined space. I dodged, the cavern walls amplifying the sickening thud of his axe against rock. The smell of ozone filled the air, a metallic tang mingling with the stench of blood and decaying earth. My ankle screamed in protest with every move. Adrenaline masked the pain for a while, but its waning tide threatened to leave me a cripple. I needed to end this, and fast. Another lunging attack, another desperate dodge. This time, the corner of the cavern trapped me. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the blow. But it never came. Instead, I heard a sickening crunch and a choked gurgle. I peeked through one eye, then the other. My stomach lurched. Sarah. Her face contorted in a silent scream, a makeshift spear of jagged metal shoved through her throat. The spear, the metal chair leg, bent at an unnatural angle, protruded from the crawlspace entrance, pinning Jenkins to the wall like a grotesque butterfly. The old man gurgled, eyes bulging in a silent plea for mercy. But mercy was a luxury not afforded in this charnel house. With a primal roar, I brought the rock down on his head. The sickening crack of bone echoed in the cavern, followed by a wet thud as Jenkins slumped to the floor, unmoving. Silence, thick and heavy, descended. The only sound was my ragged gasps for breath. My vision swam, the metallic tang in my mouth intensifying. I stumbled back, collapsing next to Sarah's lifeless body. Tears, hot and angry, streamed down my face. Just when I thought the nightmare was over, a low moan ripped through the silence. It wasn't Jenkins. It was Liam. He lay sprawled on the cavern floor, the axe jutting from his back. His eyes fluttered open, locking on me with a flicker of recognition before glazing over. A single, choked sob escaped his lips. Then, with a final exhale, his chest stilled. I was alone. Surrounded by the dead, the silence a deafening roar. The stench of blood and decay clawed at my throat, threatening to drown me. Hysterical laughter bubbled up from my chest, morphing into racking sobs. How long I lay there, lost in the abyss of grief and terror, I have no idea. Finally, a primal urge to survive surfaced. I dragged myself towards the crawlspace entrance, the metal leg protruding from the wall a gruesome reminder of Sarah's fate. With a sickening scrape, I pulled the leg free, the metallic tang of blood coating my hands. It wasn't a weapon, not really. But as I crawled back into the sunlight, the makeshift spear clutched in my bloodied hand. It was the only hope I had left. The idyllic haven of Camp Crystal Lake had become a graveyard, and I, the sole survivor, emerged a monster forged in its fires. Emerging from the crawlspace, the once vibrant afternoon sun felt like a cruel mockery. Blood, slick and cold, painted my clothes in macabre hues. The idyllic sounds of nature were replaced by the incessant ringing in my ears, a constant reminder of the screams and bone-jarring thuds. With a grimace, I surveyed the scene. Liam lay sprawled like a discarded doll, the axe a grotesque halo around his lifeless form. Jenkins was a twisted tableau, pinned to the cavern wall, his eyes reflecting a chilling emptiness. Sarah. I couldn't even bring myself to look. The metallic spear felt heavy and alien in my hand, a grotesque parody of a trophy. But it was my only weapon in this desolate place. Panic clawed at my throat. I didn't know how long I'd been unconscious, but the sinking sun painted the sky in ominous shades of orange. A twig snapped from behind the fallen cabin. My breath hitched. Every rustle of leaves, every chirp of a bird sounded like a monstrous approach. The playful spirit of the camp had been replaced by a pervasive sense of dread. Cautiously, I inched towards the fallen axe, the blood staining the handle an obscene crimson. My reflection in the polished metal flickered back, a stranger with wild hair and haunted eyes. The carefree Maya was gone. Suddenly, a guttural moan tore through the air. My blood ran cold. Jenkins wasn't dead. He stirred, the metal leg protruding from his chest like a grotesque skewer. His face, contorted in a mask of rage, was a roadmap of fresh wounds inflicted by the rock. He lunged with surprising agility, his hands scraping against the axe handle. I reacted on pure instinct, a primal scream ripping from my throat as I brought the axe down with all my remaining strength. The blade bit deep, a sickening squelch accompanying the sickening crack of bone. He crumpled to the ground, a final, rattling gurgle escaping his lips. But the victory felt hollow. I stared at the axe, its crimson gleam turning the setting sun even more blood-red. The weight of what I'd done threatened to crush me. Just then, a faint, rhythmic splashing sound reached my ears. It came from the lake. My heart lurched. Was there someone else? An accomplice to this nightmare? Gripped by a fresh wave of terror, I bolted towards the shoreline, the axe clutched tightly in my hand. The last rays of the dying sun turned the water into a shimmering crimson canvas. It was then I saw him, wading waist deep, a dark figure silhouetted against the bloody glow. Help! I screamed, my voice hoarse with fear and exertion. The figure turned, a wide, chilling grin splitting his face. In the fading light, I recognized him, the gas station attendant from the dusty highway town on the way to the camp. We'd stopped for supplies, a brief, forgettable interaction. He held a bloodied knife in one hand, his other hand clutching a familiar silver feather earring. My earring. The one found in the cabin. Panic surged through me, cold and paralyzing. He spoke, his voice a gravelly rasp. You shouldn't have come back, Maya. My mind reeled. What connection did he have to the camp? The horrifying truth dawned on me. It wasn't Liam, nor Jenkins. This gas station attendant, this seemingly harmless stranger, was the architect of this bloody carnage. He took a slow step towards me, the setting sun glinting off the blade of his knife. A twisted, macabre joy danced in his eyes. I realized with a chilling certainty, this wasn't over. The real nightmare was just beginning. My breath formed white puffs in the rapidly cooling air. The metallic tang of blood, my own and the others, coated my tongue. The axe felt heavy, a gruesome extension of my arm, a grim reminder of the barbarity I had become. But it was all I had against the approaching figure. He waded out of the lake, the water clinging to him like a shroud. The gas station uniform, once crisp blue, was now a canvas of crimson and grime. His face, hidden in shadow until now, was a grotesque mask of scars, each one a story of violence etched in angry red lines. You shouldn't have come back, he repeated, his voice a gravelly rasp that sent shivers down my spine. This place has memories, he continued, his smile widening to reveal a chipped and yellowed tooth. Memories that needed cleansing. My mind raced. Who was he? What memories were we disturbing? The answer came in a chilling flash, the prank. Michael's expulsion. The rumors of a brutal hazing gone wrong. This man, this monster, was the victim. And we, the unwitting catalysts for his twisted revenge. It was Michael, I rasped, my voice barely above a whisper. The prank, it was him. A flicker of surprise crossed his scarred face, replaced by a cruel amusement. Ah, Michael. Yes, he started it all. But the others, they stood by and watched. They enjoyed my humiliation. He took another menacing step forward, the water sloshing around his boots. The glint of the knife under the dying light was a beacon of imminent death. And now, he hissed, they've paid the price. Panic threatened to paralyze me. But the faces of my friends, Sarah's lifeless eyes, Michael's mangled skull, fueled a desperate rage. I wouldn't be another victim. With a primal scream that echoed across the darkening lake, I lunged. The axe swung in a clumsy arc, more fueled by fear than skill. The man sidestepped easily, the knife a blur as it slashed across my arm. Pain, hot and searing, exploded through me. I stumbled back, the metallic tang of blood filling my mouth. The world spun, the lake a shimmering mockery. But I held on, the axe a lifeline in the encroaching darkness. He stalked towards me, his movements predatory, enjoying the slow unraveling of my resistance. My vision blurred, the pain in my arm a throbbing counterpoint to the pounding of my heart. Suddenly, a memory surfaced from the hazy recesses of my mind, the rusty nail protruding from a broken board inside the cabin. A desperate gamble, as the man lunged, I feigned a fall, tumbling towards the cabin. With a grunt of surprise, he followed. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the scream of protest from my wounded arm, and lunged for the broken board. My fingers closed around the cold metal. He was already upon me, the knife aimed for my throat. In a desperate move, I swung the board with all my remaining strength. The nail caught him in the chest, a sickening thud echoing through the air. He staggered back, a look of shock contorting his face. The opening was all I needed. I brought the axe down in a vicious swing, the blade biting deep into his shoulder. A scream ripped from his throat, a sound raw and primal. He stumbled, clawing at the embedded axe. Before he could react, I raised the axe again, this time aiming for his head. The force of the blow split the air, the sickening crack of bone resonating through the clearing. He crumpled to the ground, a lifeless marionette discarded on the blood-stained grass. Silence descended, broken only by my ragged breaths and the rhythmic gurgle of the lake. I stood there, the axe dripping crimson, the weight of what I'd done threatening to crush me. The surviving echo of the scream seemed to mock me. Was I any better than the monsters I'd faced? As the moon replaced the sun, casting an eerie glow over the scene, I knew the answer. This place, Camp Crystal Lake, had devoured the innocence of our youth, leaving behind a legacy of blood and broken memories. And I, the sole survivor, was forever tainted by its darkness.